This is Electric Universe Eyes, and today we're going to talk about wandering stars. Genesis chapter 1, verses 14 through 19, day 4. Wandering stars. Planets in the Ani were called wandering stars. Jude 13 says, they, the false teachers, are wild waves of the sea, foaming up their shame, wandering stars, for whom blackest darkness has been reserved forever. That's from the NIV. The Greek is asteres plantae, meaning wandering stars. According to modern science, planets are not stars. Planets just reflect the light from the sun. Mercury. In the Old Testament, Isaiah 46:1 mentions Nebo, who is Nabu, the son of Marduk, or Bel, the scribe god, and identified with the planet Mercury, ISBE 298, black and green, 1992, 133. Nabu is the divine scribe of the destinies. New Testament in Acts 14:11 through 12 says, when the people saw what Paul had done, they lifted up their voices, saying in the speech of Lycaonia, the gods are come down to us in the likeness of men. And they called Barnabas Jupiter, and Paul Mercurius, because he was the chief speaker. It's in the King James Version. Barnabas is thought to be Zeus, who is identified with the planet Jupiter, and Paul is thought to be Hermes, who is identified with the planet Mercury. Venus. In the Old Testament, Venus is called the morning star or day star in Isaiah 14:12. I translate it, O day star, Venus, son of dawn. The Hebrew 11th is masculine in form. New Testament, Peter 1:19 says, and we have the word of the prophets made more certain, and you will do well to pay attention to it, as to a light shining in a dark place, until the day dawns and the morning star rises in your hearts. NIV. Revelation 2:28 says, I will also give him the morning star. This is a promise to the victorious Christians. It does not mean Christians will inhabit the planet Venus, which is 900 degrees. This planet is more like hell. Ane states, the gift of the morning star must refer to the fact that the exalted Christ shares his messianic status with the believer who conquers. 1997, 2:12. In Revelation 22:16, Jesus is called the bright and morning star. Ane, Venus is referred to as the largest star by Pliny in Natural Histories 2.37. Cicero says that Venus is the lowest planet nearest the Earth, De Nat Deor 2.53 LCL. In the Greek, it is referred to as Phosphoros, see 2 Peter 1:19, or Eosphoros, the morning star, while the evening star is called Hesperos, or brother of Atlas. In Job 9:9, the LXX translates Lisk, or probably Orion, as Hesperos. The Latin for Venus when it precedes the sun in the morning is Lucifer, and Vesper when it follows the sun in the evening. This is from On 2:12, Pliny Natural Histories 2.36-38. Lucifer, the day star, is mentioned in the Great Battle of the Stars in the Sibylline Oracles. Charlesworth, 1983, 405, Book 5, 512. All 12 constellations are named. Mars, Old Testament, 2 Kings 17:30, mentions Nergal, who is identified with the planet Mars, ISBE 299. Nergal is associated with the underworld. His wife was Ereshkigal, queen of the underworld. Their love story is told in Nergal and Ereshkigal, black and green, 136. Jupiter, New Testament, in Acts 14:12, Barnabas is thought to be Zeus. In Greek, Jupiter is the Latin name for the same god. who has identified with the planet Jupiter. Saturn, Old Testament, Amos 5:26 says, "But you have borne the tabernacle of Molech, and Chiun, your images, the star of your God, which ye made yourselves," from the King James Version. The NIV takes these two nouns as proper names for Akkadian. The alternate translation is, quote, "Lifted up Sakuth, your king, and Kaiwan, your idols, your star gods," the NIV. This is probably referring to Saturn, especially the LXX translation. In the New Testament, the star of Rephan mentioned in Acts 7:43 was most likely the planet Saturn. This is a quote from the LXX in Amos 5:25-26. Saturn is also thought to be the planet of the Jews because of these verses, also Damascus document 7:14-15. Saturn is also, quote, "the star of the sun," end quote, in Akkadian texts, ISBE 298. Names of the planets in ancient times. It will go language, sun, moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn. Latin, sun, moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn. Greek, Helios, Selene, Hermes, Aphrodite, Ares, Zeus, Kronos. Hebrew, Shamash, Yahweh, Nebo, Helil, Nergal, Baal, Kiyun. Canaanite, Shapash, Yara, Astarte, Resheph, Baal, El, Ashtaroth. Akkadian, Shamash, Sin, Nabu, Ishtar, Nergal, Marduk, or Bel. Sumerian, Utu, Suen, Nabu, Inanna, Nergal, Inki, Nana. Comets. Comets were also called, quote, "wandering stars." Pliny calls them, quote, "stars that suddenly come to birth in the heaven itself." Book 2, XXII, 89. Comet in Greek means hairy. They look like a fuzzy or hairy spot in the sky. Some have a long tail or what looks like a sword. Some have thought that 1 Chronicles 21:16 describes a comet which says, quote, "David looked up and saw the angel of the Lord standing between heaven and earth, with a drawn sword in his hand extended over Jerusalem," the NIV. This may have been Halley's comet that would have returned in 988 BC. David reigned from 1010 to 970 BC. Pliny describes a number of different kinds or shapes of comets. Some comets look like a sword. He writes, quote, "Javelin stars quiver like a dart. These are a very terrible portent. The same stars that are shorter and sloping to a point have been called daggers. These are the palest of all in color, and have a gleam like the flash of a sword, and no rays. Once hitherto it has happened that a mane-shaped comet changed into a spear. This was in the 108th Olympiad, AUC 408, Natural History, II.xxii.89. When Caesar Augustus began to rule, a comet appears for 7 days at the game over Rome. Pliny writes, "A comet was visible for 7 days in the northern part of the sky. It was rising about an hour before sunset and was a bright star, visible from all lands." Pliny Natural History 2.xxii.94. Halley's comet appeared in 66 AD during Nero's reign. Pliny described it as follows. Sometimes there is a comet in the western sky, usually a terrifying star and not easily expiated. During Nero's principate shining almost continuously and with a terrible glare. People think that it matters in what direction a comet darts, when stars' strength it borrows, what shapes it resembles, and in what places it shines. Ibid 92. In Egyptian, arrows of war are compared to shooting stars. Ramses III in his second war against the Libyans said, quote, He sends arrow upon arrow like shooting stars. Breasted IV.9162. In the hymn of victory of Tutmos III, it says, quote, I caused them to see thy majesty as a shooting star, sowing its fire in a flame as it gives off its steam. Annette 374. This was a narration from Institute for Biblical and Scientific Studies. I'll post the link in the description.